We're living in a time of uncertainty. Technological advances and shifting global trends are changing the way we think about work and life. My name is Aaron Maniam. I'm a futurist and a poet. I believe that it is possible for us to embrace this age of disruption and find more meaning in what we do, if we bring more of ourselves to our work and play. So Raymond, tell me how are things going?
Things are going okay.
For the last 4 months, I've been on a journey with 4 volunteers to learn new skills,
Recording videos was a major mental challenge.
find new ways of looking at things,
I'm definitely engaging some really random parts of my brain that normally does not get engaged.
and even to reignite old passions.
It reminded me of so many things that I love to do and I haven't done, and I should not forget it.
All this in the hope of turning them into polymaths, individuals with one core expertise along with a broader range of skills. Just like Bill Gates is a software engineer, entrepreneur, and author all rolled into one. From the start, I never imagined that my social experiment would dramatically change the lives of my profiles.
Yes, I knew that.
Instead, I'm hoping that my interventions will help them discover latent potential within themselves.
Perfect!
Now I'm gathering them to put all they've experienced into one final growth hack. Coming up with a marketing campaign alongside a very special guest.
It's a massive topic, and we're trying to do something meaningful.
Over the last few episodes, I've stretched my 4 volunteers to see if they can change the way they work into something much more fulfilling and fun.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, it's time for me to embark on my own journey to discover the importance of fun at work. And I know just the right expert to visit. I'm in San Francisco to meet Nicole Lazaro.
Okay. So for this game, what we're doing is we're actually creating...
Nicole has been designing games for 26 years now and has worked on gameplay projects such as Sims, Star Wars, and The Matrix. She's also a consultant for companies looking to leverage on fun to build more effective workspaces.
So if you open and close your hand, you see you've got magic powers now?
Yeah. I get to try out her latest VR game to remind me of how we feel when we're having fun. But how does all that relate to work?
It turns out that games please us in 4 ways. There's novelty, there's challenge, there's friendship, and there's meaning. So good games tend to do at least 3 of those 4 things. And so we call them 4 keys to fun. So there is the easy fun. First, like, it's curiosity. It's the hook that pulls you in. It's driving the racetrack backwards. You're being able to explore, being able to create fantasies, being able to tell stories. But then, you've got that fun sort of toy, but then you want a little bit more structure and you want a little goal. And so that's where the next type of fun kicks in. And that's hard fun, the hard fun of challenge and mastery. And to get there, we have these goals and obstacles to them and the different strategies to get them. You feel frustrated, and then when you win, it's like, yes, you punch the sky. And it's winning in the presence of others that we found is very important as well. So the social what we call people fun. Then lastly, there's serious fun, which is all about creating the feeling of desire or anticipation and then being able to satisfy it.
So what are the specific steps that a workplace can take to incorporate the 4 keys to fun as well as greater emotional engagement?
So to bring in play into a person's life, I think it's the first step is, of course, awareness. Like, what is this, what is these things called play? Which is, what are the things that I really enjoy? And then how can I interleave these things that I really enjoy with the other tasks, the other work that has to get done? And then in the work that has to get done, that isn't maybe intrinsically enjoyable, which is why the 4 keys is all about intrinsic motivators and not extrinsic motivators. It's all about making the hard parts of your life, fun.
Very cool.
Nicole's idea is that games can be used to create a workplace that is immersive and experiential. Is that something my 4 volunteers can experiment with at their workplace? Fue is trying to build a forward-thinking and creative team at his family-run business, Mothercare. I set him up with a design thinking consultant who can help him move towards that goal.
My name is Jen. I'm a design practitioner. Today I'm meeting Fu Wei and Fu Wei's team really to introduce design thinking as a method to look at problems differently, to connect with their consumers better, and the idea that good ideas can be formed in a team. We will demystify what design thinking is, and it's more importantly how to identify some of the methods that is relevant to you in the context of improving customer experience in Harbourfront. And let's have fun, right? So
We're doing a consumer insight design thinking workshop. So we're trying to uncover exactly what customers think about during their pregnancy journey and kind of match their unfulfilled needs with our in-store experience.
So I think this kind of captures well what design thinking really is, borrowing a designer's way of solving problem, using heart because we have to understand people, using hands, we have to use our hands to generate ideas, and head as well. It's actually very complex decision-making process when you have to connect the dots. Synthetic thinking this is another word that we use. So head, heart, and hands. So these are a very holistic way of solving problems. So today my plan is I'm going to introduce the idea of how to connect with consumers, not through the statistics or report, really connect with consumers as a human being. So we actually invited a real mom who will share her pregnancy journey, how she became a mom. How was it like with second child? So now that you've gone through it, so...
I feel that I've been quite unfair to my second one.
Okay.
Because, I don't buy as many things for him.
Right.
Yeah, I just...
My team is quite experienced already, been with me for some time, especially my operations team. The downside to that is that sometimes they already have a very fixed idea of what is right and what is wrong, and what they think the customer wants. But obviously customers are constantly evolving, they're changing, their needs are changing, the market landscape is changing. So it's a very good opportunity for them to reconnect with a customer and interact with them in a different setting.
Out of all your purchases that you bought over 2 kids, that is the only purchase that you found that has not been useful?
Yeah, I would think there's only that one item, The other items like the rompers and the clothes, I find that they are very good.
Do you go for a morning walk? Like, how would you use the stroller? Which stroller you will use?
I got the Camilla because also I drive mostly. Yeah.
My staff are engaging very, very well. Yeah, they're enthusiastic, they're asking really good questions. And you can see, the whole room is very high energy, really enjoying themselves.
We all stand up, and then you cluster your coats around this.
An indication.
Every team kind of pulled it off with really amazing ideas, ranging from space design, digital experience, and the social media content strategy. So they actually have a lot of ideas. Out of all these ideas you generated, you probably have, this is something that we can really do. Then the natural step is prototyping.
After lunch is the fun part, when we all get to be creative. We're going to be building stuff, putting together many different ideas and seeing what works and what doesn't work. Make it a bit higher. Come. Put. No, put. Yeah, put display a bit higher. Come. Not. In order to be really excellent, in life, right, you need to be a polymath. A lot of the people here are, my operations and marketing folk. So they're very good at what they do, but the problem is that they're only good at their particular function. So when I run a workshop like this, which is multi-department, and you have a strong facilitator like Jin, then I'm hoping that really good ideas will come out of it.
Basically, this is the Harbourfront Center, so this is the actual cash and till.
Oh, okay.
And then this is where we think that the self payment kiosk is. We have also the product for you, allow you to scan QR codes.
Design thinking is more relevant than ever because the world is empowered by technology, and we have so many possibilities to improve the human experience. So design thinking then allow companies like Mothercare or any other industry to really see the new opportunities from a human needs point of view rather than, oh, just because technology is there, we are going to launch something new. So I think it can be really a competitive advantage.
This is just basically an illustration of how we want the entire toy area to be. It has to be kind of like fun and whimsical. The play area also is a strong pull for kids, right, to come back to our store. I think in today's day and age, if you want to be really good at whatever you're doing, you have to borrow from different fields of knowledge. So like for example, we have the customer bringing her experience, operations also bringing their experience and their practicality of implementation, plus the creativeness and the design framework of my marketing team. I think that whatever we produce from this workshop should be good.
Meanwhile, I turn my attention to freelance yoga teacher Sarah, who wants to get up to speed with the time.
Opening the pelvis, building strength.
Just how can she push herself further?
Effortless.
Sarah is a freelance yoga teacher, trying to figure out how to use technology and social media in her work. So far, I've sent her to mentors to learn new skills, ranging from computer programming to marketing strategies.
Understanding business, understanding accounts, understanding marketing, understanding social media. All of this will make it easier for me to function as a yoga teacher.
Now, Sarah wants to practice her marketing skills and reach out to new audiences. She's set her sights on an NGO, DataKind, a group of data scientists working with Raymond to volunteer their expertise for worthy causes.
Basically, this is one of our DataKind meetings. So what we're doing here, actually, we are setting up our objectives and key results for the next 6 months. And we are discussing what our targets are going to look like.
Unknown to his colleagues, Sarah is about to hijack their meeting with a yoga initiation class.
Raymond, do you want to come here and introduce what our objectives are?
Okay, so welcome to Data Yoga. That's what I'm calling it. I'm not sure what you're calling it, Sarah. But the idea is to basically do some office yoga in sitting position, I am assuming.
Notice how you are breathing. Just take a deep breath in for me. And let it go. So that is the first level of instruction. We need to be able to breathe fully so that we lift our vital energy. And so when you are as old as I am, you still bounce around with a bushy tail, okay? I've been teaching 23 years, and so the challenges that I've had, it has opened my eyes to what new yoga teachers are doing and how the business of yoga is moving. I'm not sure that's where I want to be. I think I would much rather teach very small numbers of private classes, and really connect, because that's where I get the pleasure and joy. Inhale, take the arms back. Opening the pelvis, building strength. However, having said that, you still need to be able to reach out to those people, and they need to get to know that you exist. So I'm even investigating a web page, which is, I mean, hey, everybody has a web page, right? So I'm sort of catching up. So, yeah. And now your whole body is the star. So lift your head, lift your fingers, push into your feet, open, breathe in. Good job. Bring your arms down to the horizontal. Okay, and fit, young things. It's been nice to meet you all.
In another part of Singapore, singer-songwriter Abby is feeling the heat.
So my album launch is happening in 5 days. It's long overdue and we are crazy excited about this. You know, we're talking about 4 people who have not run any events before, just basically planning events from scratch. What do you feel 5 days away from the launch?
I feel like super excited because we did everything by ourselves, like the whole launch, but at the same time a bit scared as well. Of course.
It's been good. It's been good. Tiring. See all the eye bags.
That's right.
Like the 5 kg rice bags.
Concealer, guys. So I learned how to be professional, I learned how to be proper, how numbers matter, how marketing matters, how boosting a Facebook post matters. And now that I know it, right, I put myself, like I was here, and now I put myself on this platform and I'm looking at myself down below, I'm like, hey, you're one step higher than you were 4 months ago. I'm crazy excited lah. Yeah, so let's go.
Over the last 4 months, I've tried to help Abby get a better idea of what it takes to run an event.
I want to be able to one day handle marketing, finances, booking the gigs. Thank you so much.
Don't forget to invite us.
Yes, for sure.
Now, Abby's seeking advice from one of her original mentors as the band moves closer to the day.
Yeah, like macam them atas and we are not.
Vanessa Fernandez is a singer and radio presenter who first took Abby under her wing 2 years ago.
I mean, now it's just like 5 more days to the launch, so I'm excited because, like, finally,
And it sounds like you already think through what needs to be done, what you want it to look like, how you want it to go, which is great. But when things don't go exactly your way, which will happen 100%, you will get irritated. And when you get irritated, you're not going to be able to perform well, you're not going to be able to just react as well. So you got to try and just tell yourself, like, there's probably going to be a lot of things that are not going to happen the way that I necessarily want it to happen. At the end of the day, like, when you're on stage, singing your heart out and feeling that connection with the audience, that's the only thing that really matters. So allow yourself to just have that moment, at least, no matter what goes wrong.
Every single thing she has taught me, every single thing she's taught me, every single thing was really helpful for just being a better musician lah.
But before Abby goes on stage for her big night, I'm going to stretch her and her fellow volunteers with one last intervention. One that will require them to pool their talents to complete a challenge, under the watchful eyes of a very special guest. Over the last 4 months, I've brought 4 volunteers on a journey to learn new things and to unlock latent talent within themselves. My aim is to see if it is possible to develop ourselves into polymaths, individuals with one core expertise and a broad range of supporting skills. Like Mae Jemison, an astronaut, physician, and dancer, all at the same time. Now, I'm putting all that we've learned into designing one final intervention for the 4 of them. And I will need someone who can take them far further than I can.
Okay, let's start. My name is Bernard Harrison, Principal Partner, Creativity and Design, Bernard Harrison & Friends. I was CEO of Wildlife Reserve Singapore, Singapore Zoo and Night Safari, and Jurong Bird Park, in various stages for about 29 years.
When I was growing up, Bernard Harrison was a name that lots of Singaporeans knew if we loved the zoo. Right? We all knew that he was one of the people who conceptualized the idea behind the zoo and who was very keen not just on having people meet and interact with animals, where you get more in touch with nature and thereby get more in touch with yourselves. In that process, he was also an ecologist, he was a biology enthusiast, he was an environmentalist. So in a sense, Bernard was a proto-polymath.
I have a very strong management style. It's called management by exception, which basically means I empower you to do something, go and do it, and don't come and see me unless you have a problem, but let's have lunch together once a week and I'll see you at staff meetings and things like that. I believe very much in an inclusive management style where I embrace the staff and say, basically we're family and let's get this done together.
I think I know Bernard Harrison since I was 14 or 15. I went to do a research on him and I was like, oh my God, I want to be a zookeeper. And I applied. I applied to be a zookeeper, but I didn't get a job. So when I look at Bernard, I feel like being a zookeeper all over again.
But they're not just here to get nuggets of wisdom from Bernard. My 4 volunteers have work to do. Over the next 3 days, they have to come up with a working campaign to tackle the issue of single-use plastics.
Surviving in the wild.
What we're going to do over the next 2.5 days is developing a campaign to get rid of single-use plastics, SUPs, something which Tina has got very, very close to her heart, and she will talk after.
Bernard Harrison, together with his wife and partner Tina Lim, run Bernard Harrison and Friends, a zoo design and consultancy company. To create synergy in their design approach, they conduct regular workshops, where they bring in individuals from diverse backgrounds to create solutions tailored for specific work goals.
So polypropylene is a heavier...
The heavier plastic. I know vitamin
It is this
bottles come
method
in
they
it.
are now employing on our 4 profiles. This time with the aim of creating a workable campaign against single-use plastics.
The campaign is something that is very close to my heart. It's a massive topic, and we're trying to do something meaningful, low-hanging fruits. What can we actually accomplish?
Every idea that is thrown out is sensible and it's accepted. So nobody says, but that's stupid. Because if you say that in a brainstorm, in a workshop, that person will probably never open his mouth again. Try and come up with as many creative and lateral ideas as possible. I've got the participants to prepare a presentation each so that they have a good understanding of the subject. One is covering international concepts of single-use plastics, one is looking at national single-use plastics, one is looking at retailers, and one is looking at communities. So they will each present and we'll discuss it.
The way we can start doing this is firstly to charge. Because Singaporeans, a lot of us are stingy, okay? And when they think about having to pay 10 cents for it, it's a lot of money. It's 10 cents on top of the groceries that I just bought. It's what Bernard said. If anyone has an idea, share it with us. And the rest of you don't shoot it down. And I'm that kind of person, whenever I have an idea, I always feel I shy away from sharing with people, especially because Raymond, Fu Wei and Sarah, they're all wiser in their fields, or at least like in life. But Bernard reminded me that, hey, no, why are you really getting edgy? If you don't know, you don't know.
Generally, what the government is doing was, if you have trash, you just burn it. And that basically brings you to zero waste because you try not to put all of that into landfills. So things like making bags biodegradable does not help if your process is to burn it. So the only solution, just reuse. I mean, for me, it's the elephant in the room is the fact that, we are crafting a marketing campaign, and I'm still wondering how this will impact all the metrics that I'm seeing. I'm talking about things like CO2 levels, collapse of ecosystems.
Community action in Singapore, and so there are 6 areas. So I grouped NGO and volunteer groups. As far as the cleanups, the one that I researched, what I particularly liked was the fact that they don't just clean up, but they actually document what it is they collect. And if you look at the top 10, if you just take cigarette butts out, all of these are single-use plastics. I'm seeing that this whole process has really broadened my viewpoint, particularly social media based for me. That was an area where I just didn't feel included, but you just have to dive in and struggle, and gradually it becomes more comfortable.
The zero waste shopping movement, which is currently going on in Singapore, it really starts with, basically being very conscious about your living and planning ahead. And the one that I'm referencing is called PACT, P-A-C-K-T. They were the first ones in Singapore to do it. So you're meant to come to the store with your own jars, with your own containers and your own paper bags. I won't consider myself an environmentalist, but I'm definitely environmental conscious. Like most people, I've only done the low-hanging fruits, which do not really inconvenience me.
Bernard and Tina have also invited stakeholders to help them understand the tangible efforts taking place on the ground.
So in prime supermarket, cashiers are actually very conscious and aware of how much to fill before we use the next bag. We have a responsibility as a retailer towards a reduced use of SOP.
I'd like to introduce you to Stefan Beng, and he is from the Singapore Nature Society. You are the chairman of the Marine Conservation Group. So,
right. Okay.
193 kilometers of coastline with small main island. So you can see that apart from the seawalls that are already gone up, we are also preparing for sea level rise. We've got to balance development and nature conservation. We've been campaigning for over 30 years to have a marine protected area in Singapore. We finally have one. The yellow area here. So it's the whole of the two sisters islands.
Listening to what Stephen has been doing, right, with the Nature Society, that to me obviously was a new learning.
So I'd like to introduce Dr. Sivasati. He is a senior lecturer in NUS.
I got involved in coastal cleanup, and you know the frequency of cleaning twice a day. Weekend is once every hour, from 5 a.m. So we really do a good job of providing recreational beach space to Singaporeans. But if you go early enough, before they can get to it, during the southwest monsoon, they can't clean it fast enough, right? It's a high load.
I think that it's ridiculous that we have cleaners, starting from 5 a.m. every morning and cleaning the beach every hour just to keep it, pristine. You should do a 1 week or 1 month campaign where basically the government says, okay, we're not going to clean our beaches this month, and so that everyone who visits it, right, gets...
Yeah, then you have to deal with this incredible public pressure, which is very strong. But it's a nice idea. They've tried it once or twice for about 24 hours in an estate, right? Yeah.
The main thing why the single-use plastics is supposed to be bad is because it's supposed to affect the environment. And they have basically provided the context in which how we can basically lessen the negative impact.
To drive the message home, Sivasoti decides to take our 4 volunteers on a tour to see how much pollution is affecting Singapore's shores.
Plastic water bottle,
okay,
right? Beer can. This will be plastic like raffia that's shredded, and then it's been here so long that it's bleached off all its color. You see a lot of cigarette butts as well.
Yep.
This is just a piece of styrofoam. One piece can become 1,000 pieces, right? So although we do counts in coastal cleanup, it's just to have a relative abundance. So we know this straits has quite a high burden of, it's not everywhere. But this is the #1 item in Singapore, any beach. Yeah. It's in the hundreds of thousands. Look at this mangrove. This is like some tiny neglected spot. But we'll have more species of mangrove trees here than the whole of the Americas.
Wow.
Yeah. So this to me is rare and precious because we have very little, right? It's wonderful to have in your backyard.
What resonated with you as you did this mangrove walk and saw all this pile of accumulation?
It's heartbreaking because, you walk along this path and you see it's so pristine, right? But it's just all manicured and artificial because the moment you walk to the back and then you end up seeing all these piles of trash.
That's reality out there.
Yeah.
There's so much of things to be learned and so much of, habits that we need to change. At the start of this workshop, I'm not the kind who recycles. I'm not the kind who spends an extra minute thinking about, oh, maybe today I shall not use plastic bag. And to just look at them and see how passionate they are about what they do just reminds me, in whatever way I can help the society, I'm okay to do that.
My business is called Strange But Cool, and we're all about fashion. So give me a plastic container, we figure out how to repurpose it.
We did a series of bottle-based bags. These are all prototypes as we go forward.
To help our 4 profiles generate more ideas for their campaign,
Today, I'm going to share a bit about what I say.
Tina is showing them some of the upcycling efforts for her green fashion label. She hopes to inspire them with a more hands-on approach.
So on this table, I brought a selection of things that we have made. And if you notice, the plastic bottle features in quite a lot of this. This came from a large, I think, detergent bottle. We kept the base for something, we made the top into one of my tassels. Now, it's your turn to make your Max. Plastic water bottles for everybody. There's green.
Thank you.
Gray. Okay. I followed, there's a straight line, I try to do that, but that's actually quite good.
Working with my hands is something that I've always done since I was tiny. This is the old way. these days, kids just don't have that.
We either make a max for smaller things out of it, or we use it as a base for our tassels.
Probably one of the first times I've tried upcycling some things. The tactileness was actually quite fun. I've never actually gone through a branding workshop. Usually that's the more creative marketing people, that's what they do, rather than what I do. So I really enjoyed it.
And your seam line is here, right?
The process of recreating and upcycling that piece of plastic bottle actually made me reflect and think about my relationship with this single-use plastic. I became more cognizant of the fact that we really waste a lot of resources.
Abby, how's yours? Inside out? Your cut line, you like it?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I've always known that like you can recycle plastic water bottles or anything plastic, but then to actually see the outcome of how that looked like something that you can carry and it's so purposeful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to share with my friends, you know, if I ever see them, I'm like, why can't you just carry a reusable bag?
You've done yours. You've got your first max for bigger things.
But even with all the guidance from Tina and Bernard, will our 4 volunteers be able to come up with a plausible campaign against single-use plastics in the short time they have left?
Kana, that is the tree.
Over the last 3 days, our 4 profiles have been receiving guidance from zoo icon Bernard Harrison. It's all part of a final intervention in a social experiment to see if we can develop ourselves into polymaths.
Now that we've got the guts of it, right, we've done all of this, I want us now to break out into 2 groups. One group goes
Today,
there, one group can
they will
stay
put
here.
everything they have learned into practice to generate a working campaign against single-use plastics.
So you do and you do, that's it.
Tina and Bernard broke us up. They paired me up with Raymond. So now we have to just focus on the vision, the mission, our core values, our tagline, our mascot. Me and Raymond, we are doing the creative bit of it.
So right now we've been asked to create a PowerPoint looking at the stakeholders and the business side of what we're proposing.
Fuwei and Sarah are going to be presenting about the budget, where it's going to be held at and how many people we're looking at, and if we're going to target this specific audience, how we're going to target them, and it's just basically numbers.
I think Singaporeans business,
Government,
businesses,
NGOs, civil societies. Now we
Government,
also had
NGOs.
householders and young parents.
I feel like that's Singaporeans, right? Yeah.
Fuwei and I, we are targeting young parents, and our way forward is to encourage activities as a family where we are upcycling, having fun, cutting and measuring, and all of those learning experiences that kids need to have.
So the vision is to take ownership of single-use plastics, SUP pollution in Singapore.
The campaign is bit by bit, and the main aim of the campaign is to help people think more about reducing the plastic use by recycling or reusing, especially reusing of bags and reusing of utensils.
Reduce SUP.
Instead of going like in a cold turkey approach where you basically go off completely all your disposable plastics, you basically go step by step, slowly replacing bit by bit.
The stakeholders are basically the people we're reaching out to. Having the background of business and marketing, right, to come up with a campaign for this, I do keep in mind, like, okay, so how would I be able to craft it in such a way to get businesses on board? Something that we can do is really Facebook and Instagram.
Working with Fuwei, Raymond and Sarah really taught me how to sit back, listen and grasp all this knowledge and information that I didn't know 5 minutes ago. And working with them just brought me back to how it will be like if I work with my bandmates and how it's important to really listen.
No advocates. Because of our backgrounds, we all bring a very different perspective. So while I guess it's super unstructured, but the positive side of it is that you get a whole bunch of like crazy free-flowing ideas from everyone.
With the combined strengths of the 4 of them, can they formulate a working campaign against single-use plastics?
This is our campaign in order to reduce all the single-use plastic in Singapore. And we call it bit by bit. So, core values: encourage, educate, excite, inspire Singaporeans. And our mission is basically to reduce SPUs by 80%.
Raymond is a very process-driven person. He's what we would classify in personality typing as definitely an engineer, which means he thinks very systematically, logically, but a great person on a team. I mean, you need these guys.
Government is trying their very best to affect single-use plastics. Businesses are also involved because they are using single-use plastics in much of their packaging and internally. And we felt that we could target young parents in particular because they have children and they are more concerned about tomorrow and what we are creating for those children.
I think Sarah brings a lot of maturity, very responsible, and she's very diligent. You can see by the way she prepared her assignment, she's obviously done a lot of research.
If we have the backing of NEA, if we have the backing of certain civil societies and NGOs, I think that will give us a much stronger foundation to go out and to reach out to other businesses and get sponsorship from them. We want to at least spread awareness to 100,000 people. And then after that, conduct at least 2 workshops.
Fuwei is extremely intelligent, a total controller. He likes to take charge of the whole situation. So a total opposite to Abby.
The idea of bit by bit is, to at least know that even if you're carrying 2 plastic bags, you are carrying 1 reusable bag, and that's a start for everything. Another plan is, if we can tie up with NTUC, Passion Card and all that, this could become a course in the CC. And then we can increase the number of recycled items to be made in the course.
I have noticed the shifts in emotions through the 4 participants there. For example, Abby, I think, is getting a bit more focused in what she's putting across to us now. She's not rambling that much.
Through social media, we feel that Facebook and Instagram.
Sarah is still very much the nurturing, but I think she's getting over her discomfort when we talk about Facebook and Instagram and Spotify. She's like, oh, okay. So her comfort level is growing there. Raymond is still in the matrix, but I think it's understanding how to talk to him and getting it the best from him. And he's getting to understand that life is not in grids. And Fuwei, I saw an emotional catch in him. And for him, if we can get that emotional catch or tension, I think he's got buy-in.
Try to bring that forward into the national conscious.
Fuwei is closest to me in a way, I think, because he does a lot of social media stuff also. Abby, being a creative, she can say some very weird things that somehow make sense in the context. And then Sarah, she's basically very community-oriented. So she tries to think of, okay, who can we hit, who can we hit, who can we hit?
So every 4 months. I think with my heart, Fuwei is practical. Sarah is a bit of both, and Raymond is just right? So all of us, when we come together, it's good. This can go on and this can increase so that we can get more people involved in this. Yeah, that's about it.
Well done.
Summation. My feeling is that we have the makings of a campaign. It has parts of it that are highly emotive, parts of it that have to be very corporate. I think the gist of what we're getting at on the emotive sense and the corporate sense, if we were able to fuse this and if we could get the sponsors that we want, this campaign can go live.
You are at the cusp of a very interesting situation where you have bought in to a potential campaign which has a very noble goals. I think we've got a very raw but very exciting product, which is a very powerful campaign which has been thought through by a very diverse group of people.
Hello.
There you
The 4 of them have produced a campaign under the guidance of Bernard and Tina in just 3 days. But have they also developed in any other ways over the last 4 months we spent together?
I'm really curious, Abby, Raymond, Sarah, and Fuwei, what have you been learning?
So much, especially for me, I am someone who really thinks with my heart, but then having met people who are in the corporate line, people like Fuwei, people who are technical like Raymond. Initially, it was just like, why are these people not thinking with their heart? But that's the thing, we need people like that because they remind me of how important all these numbers are and how important a lot of other factors are.
I think the four of us are walking away from this workshop really having a certain level of understanding of single-use plastics, and the landscape and how everything works in Singapore.
Pitching an idea to corporates, to the people in general, doing slogans and stuff. Wow, okay. That part of my brain that has to work on the creative content, the copy and the marketing, it's just feeling weirded out at the moment.
For me, putting together a campaign, I've never ever done anything like that before. So working with the concepts of mission and target audience, it's a much, much bigger project than just setting off a yoga class and choosing who your students are.
They've been stretched.
Nice,
To give
nice.
more.
And once you stretch, you can't go back. And earlier on we talked about the idea of the polymath, right?
Mhm.
This is really what it's about, right? This is about learning what's not in your immediate field of vision and then broadening that field to see a larger range of concerns. And it sounds like you guys are going further on the journey than you already were, which is great. I think this has really been a wonderful experience.
I'm here at the junkyard. It's Abby's big night, and I'm here to support her.
Darling. Oh my God, you're here! Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure. See you later.
Okay.
Let's welcome MMLD!
This is like the start. This is an introduction to who we are, who MMLD is. And we just want people to just, if you can relate with our music, then we are happy lah.
I was chilling by the bar when I saw your face. Despite the crowd, the metal rush, everything was in slow pace.
It's crazy. I mean, like, the whole band put this together and like just to see it all being so, amazing. The crowd, the people, just people singing to our songs. Like, that made me so emotional on stage and it's bloody crazy. I'm so happy. I don't know. I feel like when someone's extremely happy, that's when you can never find the words for it. I look at myself and I'm just like, wow, more than just being a musician and a songwriter, I'm also someone who understands what it is like to actually run an event properly. Thank you so much.
We'd like you to take a series of assessments.
At the start of our journey, I had all 4 of them take a personality survey with Pulsify as a control value. Now, after these 4 months, they're taking the survey again to see how the interventions may have impacted them.
For Fu Wei, we noticed 2 big changes in his personality. The first is being a lot more assertive and active in terms of extroversion, right? And the second is actually showing a lot more trust and cooperation when dealing with other people at the workplace. For Abby, she's a lot more focused on the outcome and less so on the nitty-gritty details. And it seems to suggest she's been able to take a more strategic view on things today. For Sarah, the changes are much more on the emotional side of things in her personality, and we found her to be more anxious, more self-conscious, and she might feel like based on her career, for her to be able to adapt is going to be challenging. It's quite interesting for Raymond. I noticed decrease in openness to new experiences. I think this could happen when he's been through some experiences which are new to him and it turns out that he may not like it very much. So as a reaction, he ends up to be a bit more closed about these things.
Arms go wide. Good job.
The survey results are at best an initial guide. Most people won't change drastically in just 4 months. But the fact is, we all have challenges to overcome and changes to make if we hope to thrive in this age of disruption. Being a polymath is really difficult. It's something we expect extraordinarily gifted people to be able to do. But we don't always think of it as something that we can do ourselves. And I think that is one of the most important things. We really should. There's the germ of a polymath in all of us. While being a polymath is difficult, it doesn't have to be something we do alone. It's something we can do with feedback from others, with mentoring, with support. And we can do it when we learn in a community, through friends and not just by ourselves.
We want to see you there.
And I think the more of us who do that, the more of us will realize that work is much more than a four-letter word. Work is a journey. Work is something meaningful that we can undertake. And if it has to be a four-letter word, then it should be something that we love.